In last episode, we played out the first half of the sophomore season of Brian Flakes and sat at 5-1 through the first 6 games of the season. But the first matchup in today's video is going to be against North Texas at home. And at this point in the season, we're pretty much on opposite ends of the conference. We're 5-1, they're 1-5, so today should not be too hard. But early on, the North Texas defense was doing a fairly good job of disguising their coverages. Flakes here thought he had an open tight end, but the safety is going to rotate over and break up the pass. But the Roadrunner defense, which has been solid all year long, forced the Mean Green to go 3 and out on their first drive. So the ball was right back to Flakes, and on 3rd and 14, Flakes is going to find Chris Carpenter on an out route for a huge conversion. And the very next play, UTSA would get on the board with the backup tight end breaking a tackle and getting inside the end zone. But after another quick stop, Flakes in the middle of the field is going to find Decorion Clark for a huge completion. But the North Texas defense was completely lapsing in the secondary as Chris Carpenter was wide open for a massive completion. And again, the next play, Randall is wide open in the flat for another touchdown. Now up 14-0, the Mean Green had yet to get on the board, and here's Flakes on a read option picking up a nice gain. And on 4th and 3, coach wanted to remain aggressive, so we decided to go for it inside the 30, and Flakes here is going to extend the play but just missed his wide receiver. And the Mean Green would capitalize on that by scoring a touchdown and cutting it to a 1-score game, but Flakes here on a huge scramble is going to pick up 15. And now behind the sticks on 3rd down, Flakes is going to find Willie McCoy on a curl route, and look at this awful defense by North Texas. They're not even going to touch Willie McCoy until he's all the way inside the 10. But here on 1st and goal, Flakes is going to force one into the end zone and be intercepted by Leota, who's going to knee it for a touchback. Luckily, the turnover would not lead to any points for the Mean Green, and here's Flakes rebounding to McCoy in the middle of the field. And due to a hit on that completion, Flakes would have to leave the game, and he would not be able to return until the middle of the 4th quarter. But the game was pretty much over at this point, 28-7. But after missing about a quarter, Flakes did want to get into the end zone one more time to help his Heisman campaign, and he would end the day with over 300 total yards of offense and 3 touchdowns. And this week we had another game against a pretty mid team in the Rice Owls. They're sitting at 2-4, and while this game is on the road, if Flakes just takes care of the ball, I don't think UTSA would have any trouble in this one escaping with a victory. And after a nice play of escaping the pocket and finding a wide receiver, Flakes is going to do it once again, this time to Chris Carpenter. And 2 plays later, running back Kavorion Barnes would get UTSA on the board, but the Owls would answer with a touchdown, so Flakes once again had to bring this offense down the field. And here on 3rd and 3, he's going to find Randall, one of his favorite targets, on a nice little out route for a big conversion. And a couple plays later, Seam once again up the seam and lobbing one up to him in the end zone, and Randall's going to hold on for yet another score. And after a forced turnover from our defense, Barnes would get in for his 2nd touchdown. And as we approach the end of the first half, this game was beginning to get out of hand for the Rice Owls as Cephas breaks a tackle and takes it inside the 10. And Flakes would find Randall for another touchdown to cap off the drive. But to give Rice some credit, they did double dip. They scored at the end of the first half and then the opening drive of the 3rd quarter. But here's Flakes on a nice carry on the left sideline. So it quickly became a 1-score game. With how the Roadrunner defense was playing, it was up to the offense to keep on scoring. And approaching the red zone, coach would call a beautiful play, a screen pass to Barnes on 3rd and 6 to bring it all the way inside the 5. And on came the backup running back Griffin, who plowed in for another score to make it 35-21. But once again, the Owls would respond, and on 3rd and 8, Flakes is just going to one-hop one to the wide open tight end and have to punt. But luckily, finally, the defense was able to make a stop and give the ball back to the offense without giving up any points. And as the game approaches the middle of the 4th quarter, one more touchdown could theoretically be the dagger. And a few plays later, on a speed option, Flakes would just walk into the end zone, and that would just about do it. Rice was unable to score, and all UTSA had to do was run out the clock, and that's exactly what happened. And after yet another very dominant victory, next week's game would be against Louisiana Tech, and they are unequivocally the worst team in the conference, sitting at 0-7 on the year. The only thing they kind of have going for them in this matchup is the inclement weather, but the Roadrunners had no issue marching the football right down the field on the opening drive. And if that was to show what was to come for this Bulldog defense, it was going to be a very, very long day. And after a strike to McCoy, once again, Flakes on a play action is going to go right down the middle of the field and find his wide receiver Joshua Cephas, and the Roadrunner offense once again would cap off the drive with the rushing touchdown. So it was 14-0 after the first quarter, but the Bulldog offense would get on the board, but they still couldn't stop the UTSA offense. They would force Flakes into a 3rd down, but he's just going to escape the pocket, make the defensive end miss, and then easily just pick up the 1st down and get the ball all the way inside the 5. And 2 plays later, he would find Chris Carpenter for an easy score to make it 21-7. But once again, the UTSA defense was struggling to stop the worst team in the conference, but as long as Flakes was still able to just move the ball and score points, it really wouldn't matter. And after that huge run, Flakes would find Randall on another huge completion to bring it inside the red zone. And again, this duo is pretty much unstoppable. Flakes would find Randall for another score. And now in the second half, one more touchdown would probably ice this game as we are approaching the middle of the 3rd. And here's Cephas on another huge completion to bring it inside the red zone. And 2 plays later, on 2nd and 10, Flakes would have a Heisman type of play, getting outside the pocket, making the defensive end miss, and then lobbing one into the end zone for yet another score. He's making the Bulldog Bulldog defense looked silly, and here in the fourth quarter now up by 21, Flakes again wanted to help out his Heisman campaign as he rushes in for yet another touchdown. An easy win for the Roadrunners and another dominant game for Flakes. But still, after the game, UTSA was second in their own division because Tulane has not lost a conference game yet. But the good news was the Roadrunners were finally getting votes to be a top 25 team, and they might have a chance to be ranked if they have another dominant performance against the UTEP Miners. And for the first time this season, Flakes and the offense felt very locked in heading into this matchup. They have been in an absolute tear the last several games of the season. They really felt like nobody could stop them, and that was pretty much true on the first drive until Joshua Cephas would just headbutt the football. And although they were unable to score points on their first drive, it was very clear that the UTEP defense was going to be unable to stop this high-powered offense. And instead of getting cute with it, Flakes would just walk into the end zone on 1st and goal. And now approaching the end of the first quarter on this play action, Flakes is going to throw a beautiful pass down the field to Randall, who is off and running and bringing it all the way inside the 30-yard line. And the very next play, Flakes is going to stand tall in the pocket and find Joshua Cephas wide open, who's going to make up for his horrible mistake early in the game. And the Miners would get on the board, but again, it wouldn't matter because Flakes and Randall could just not be stopped as they have yet another huge completion down the field. And the very next play, coach called for verticals once again, but this time nobody got open, so Flakes just didn't panic, got outside the pocket, and picked up a huge gain on the ground. But Flakes realized that if he continues just to extend the play and get outside the pocket, that the Miners defense was really struggling to stay with the UTSA wide receivers as Cooper gets in for another score. And with that touchdown pass, Brian Flakes set a new school record with passing touchdowns, and he would add to that total with another long completion to Joshua Cephas down the right sideline, who burned the cornerback. So the score was 28-7 heading into the locker room, but Flakes was not done. He wanted to prove that the Roadrunners deserved to be ranked, so he would throw yet another passing touchdown here to McCoy in the back of the end zone. And while the Miners would score and cut it to 21, I don't think there's enough time for them to come back into this game, but on 4th and 8, they would stop Flakes a little bit short of the first down marker. They would score another garbage time touchdown, but after this first down from Cooper, that was basically the ball game, and Flakes had another game of over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. But this next week's matchup against UAB might end up being the hardest game of the season. The Blazers are 8-2, number 23 in the country, and at home, so Flakes and the offense knew they were going to have to come out to a fast start if they were going to beat a ranked opponent on the road. But after getting inside the red zone, the drive would stall after Flakes would take a sack on 3rd and 12. But instead of kicking the relatively easy field goal, coach wanted to go for it, and on 4th and 22, Flakes just forced one and it was intercepted. Not sure why UTSA would not just kick the field goal, but after the defense forced a turnover, Flakes here on 1st and goes in to get outside the pocket and dive into the end zone for the first score of the game. And Flakes knew pretty early on he was going to be able to dice up this Blazers run defense all game long. And a couple plays later on 2nd and 4, Flakes is going to get outside the pocket and find his running back streaking wide open down the field for a touchdown. UAB would respond, but I would sim one run play and Cooper took it all the way to the crib. So the Roadrunners had 21 first half points, but they were not done as Flakes finds Willie McCoy for a big gain. And again on the very next play, he's going to find McCoy on a corner route to get the ball inside the red zone. And the drive would be capped off with a Jaron Randall touchdown. So 28-14 heading into the locker room, and Flakes would come out and throw an interception to Swoops, who undercut the route and gives the Blazers a little bit of life as we approach the middle of the third. They would capitalize on that mistake, but Flakes was determined to make up for his massive turnover as he finds Joshua Cephas for a big gain. But once again, in field goal range on 4th and 7, coach decided to go for it, and it was a mistake. Fortunately, the defense would hold, and here is Randall streaking wide open down the middle of the field, and Flakes is going to find him for a 47-yard score. And after the defense forced another turnover, Flakes began to pour it on as he scores another touchdown here. But still in the game late in the fourth quarter, up 21, Flakes just wanted to stick it to the committee who did not rank UTSA after last week's game. He wanted to make a statement loud and clear as he finds Cephas for yet another touchdown on the day, and the Roadrunners would win 49-21 on the road against a ranked opponent. And there was some even better news as Tulane finally lost a game, and Flakes was also now 4th in the Heisman voting. So things were going very well, and the last game of the regular season was going to be against the Marshall Thundering Herd. With a win here at home, the Roadrunners would lock up a spot in the conference championship game, but after that incompletion, Flakes would get banged up and be forced to miss the rest of the first quarter, but he re-entered in a tie ball game, and Randall on his first pass back is going to take a huge completion inside the 10-yard line, and 2 plays later, Chris Carpenter would put the Roadrunners in front, and after a stop from the Roadrunner defense, Flakes wanted to score at least one more touchdown before the end of the first half, and after getting the 4th down conversion, Flakes would find the backup tight end for his second passing touchdown. But guess what? Marshall still left 20 seconds on the clock for Flakes to go down the field once again and potentially add some points, and after a huge conversion to Carpenter, he would find Clark for another score, and that was basically the ball game, 28-7, but Flakes wanted to continue to help out his Heisman campaign as he makes something happen out of nothing here, finds Randall down the field, who does get in the end zone, and another dominating victory capped off an 11-1 5-1 season and top place in the conference. And the conference championship game would be against the East Carolina Pirates. And the only thing that stood out to Flakes when scouting this team was how good their offense was. They were a 90 overall, so Flakes knew this could potentially be a shootout. So he came out of the gates firing as he's going to extend the play again here and look down the field to find his favorite target and Randall to get it inside the 10. But after taking this big hit on this read option, he would be forced to leave the game. The backup would come in. Instead of just kicking the field goal, coach wanted to go for it, and McCown just took a sack. Luckily, the next drive, Flakes was back for the biggest game of his entire career. But once again, on 4th and 11 inside the 20, coach wanted to go for it, and it was not the right decision. ECU would turn that into 3 points, but after 2 promising drives ending in no points, Flakes knew the Roadrunner offense had to get going before the ECU offense really exploded. And after a big completion down the field on 1st and goal, Flakes is going to get outside the pocket and find Cephas in the corner of the end zone. So UTSA was back in front, but here on 3rd and 4, Flakes would take another big hit and be forced to leave action. And while he was gone, the Roadrunners would score 3 points. ECU would get a touchdown. Flakes would finally re-enter the start of the 4th quarter in a tie ball game, but he knew he had to make a play as he makes a man miss, and Flakes sees some green grass down the field, but he's going to be tackled inside the 20. And a couple plays later, Flakes once again is going to get outside of the pocket, see his fullback and flip it to him, and is going to get inside the end zone to take the lead. Brian Flakes with huge play after huge play to get the Roadrunners in front, and on 4th and 10, all he had to do was slide to pick up the first down, and the game was over. The Roadrunners had done it. They are conference champions. Flakes would finish 3rd in the Heisman voting behind 2 running backs, but he would be named first team All-American, and in the year with 3,400 yards and 34 touchdowns, along with 882 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. But there was still 1 game left to play this season. It was going to be the Carriers New Orleans Bowl against Arkansas State. Flakes thought this was a little bit disrespectful as the 12-1, 19th ranked UTSA Roadrunners were going to be playing off against a non-Power 5 team, but Flakes was just excited that he could potentially follow up his conference championship with a bowl win. And on his first drive, he would find Joshua Cephas for the opening score, and Arkansas State gave the ball right back to Flakes as we approached the end of the 1st quarter, and here he's just going to escape the pocket and slide for a first down. After finding Randall on a nice crossing route to get the ball inside the 5-yard line, he would then find Willie McCoy on a slant route for another score. They would score and cut the deficit to 7, but Flakes would find Randall here on 4th and 1 to pick up another first down. And again, on 3rd and 9, they could not get UTSA off the field. But on this 3rd and goal play, Flakes would take a huge hit and once again have to have the medical staff come out to check on him. He would miss the rest of the first half, and UTSA would extend their lead to 24-7. And on the second half's opening drive, coach wanted to still be aggressive, but Flakes would take a big sack. Arkansas State would convert that into 3 points, but if they cannot score touchdowns, they have no chance to get back into this game as Flakes picks up a huge gain. But a way they could come back is by forcing some turnovers, and Flakes here is going to force one, and Rayner, their cornerback, is going to undercut the route and take over for Arkansas State. And now as we approach the end of the 4th quarter, it was now a 1-score game once again. But with a minute to go on 3rd and 11, Flakes just continued to do what was working all season long in key spots, using his legs to scramble and pick up huge conversions. And after that first down, it was over. And look at the big boy hoist up his head coach and celebrate a truly magical season in the confetti with his teammates. Flakes would set 4 new school records and get the Roadrunners ranked number 17 in the country. But after a truly dominant season, Flakes was getting a lot of huge NIL offers from a lot of Power 5 schools, and he had a big decision to make on where he wanted to potentially finish off his collegiate career.